Last week it was 22 degrees and higher, lovely and sunny, really, really hot t-shirt weather. So it makes sense that 1 week later it would be -2 degrees and snowing today. And in weather like that, there is only really one thing that will do, and it's comfort foods, specifically today, hearty stew. So today's recipe is a very hearty stew indeed, called Kanasu Broth. Now, despite being a hearty stew perfect for cold weather, Kanasu Broth is actually from ancient Mesopotamia, and the recipe dates from about 1700 BCE. It's recipe 23 on tablet A in the Babylonian Collection at Yale University. And the recipe goes something like this.
Kanasu broth. Leg of mutton is used. Prepare water, add fat. Samadu, coriander, cumin, and kanasu. Assemble all the ingredients in the cooking vessel and sprinkle with crushed garlic. Then blend into the pot suhutinu and mint.
It's not the clearest. But actually, because it's not clear, that does kind of bode well for me, because if it doesn't work out, I can just say that it was meant to be like that and no one can prove me wrong. Some of the things that are most unclear are the words. Now, to translate this, I have relied on Laura Kelly's excellent blog. She's got a glossary of terms and loads of interesting stuff about all things Babylonian and all things cooking. She tells us that Samadu, and again, no idea if I'm pronouncing this correctly or not, Samadu is semolina. Kanasu is emmer wheat, and suhutinu is a root veg. That's all we know. Something that can be dug up from the earth. So parsnip, carrot, turnip, any of those, good to go. Mesopotamia was located between the Tigris and the Euphrates, which made it an abundantly fertile land. And a huge number of crops grew there, including leeks, garlic, wheat, onions, lentils, dates, chickpeas, figs, pomegranates, and rocket. According to William Sitwell in his book History of Food in 100 Recipes, the ancient Mesopotamians also had 300 different types of bread and numerous different types of cheeses as well. So, though the recipes themselves seem simple and underformed, to treat them as such would be a mistake. But why, if they had this gastronomical galaxy in front of them, didn't they write like it? Well, it comes down to tools. Paper and pens were out, and clay tablets and styluses were in. Styli? And that takes time. You've got to make the clay tablet, and then while it's still wet, you've got to carve in cuneiform script each individual letter, and then you've got to bake it. So an ancient Mesopotamian could certainly ask their grandma to copy out a cherished family recipe, but grandma might die of old age halfway through writing it. So short and sweet it was. Ancient Mesopotamian authors assumed that the cooks knew the techniques and had all the instructions that they needed in their heads. The skill of the chef was automatically assumed. What could go wrong?
To make Kanasu broth, you will need 200 ml of water, that's 6.7 fluid ounces, 500 grams, which is just over 1 pound of diced mutton or lamb, olive oil, semolina, flour, I'm using emmer flour, but you could use anything you like, mint, a root veg such as a parsnip, carrot or turnip, coriander seeds, cumin seeds, and garlic. Heat a pan on a medium flame and add your diced meat to it. Brown it on all sides until it is seared all over. Transfer your browned meat to a plate and add 1 teaspoon of coriander seeds and 1 teaspoon of cumin seeds to a pestle and mortar. Grind the spices together. Add a tablespoon of semolina and 2 tablespoons of flour to the spices and grind everything together to combine it thoroughly. Add 2 tablespoons of olive oil to the pan that you cooked your meat in and add the water. Heat the water and oil mixture and then add the flour and spices to it, stirring constantly. If you keep stirring, it won't go into lumps. Once the pan is relatively warm, add the meat back into the flour and water mixture. Add 2 cloves of chopped garlic and stir. Peel your veg and chop it. Tear up a handful of mint and bang everything into the pot. Cover and cook on a low flame for an hour to an hour and a half. Keep checking on it regularly, and if it's sticking to the bottom or you think it's getting too thick, add some more water.
Okay, so here it is. Kanasu broth. First things first, obviously because we don't have any precise ingredients and instructions, the liquidity of this is up for debate. I have seen some people online suggest that it should literally be a broth, very watery, and other people like Laura Kelly suggest, well actually this is based on Botero, who was a historian of Mesopotamia, considered the authority on Mesopotamian texts, who is the first person to kind of translate this text, and he's the one who said this should be a broth. Modern historians are sort of now coming up and saying, well actually, is that strictly accurate, or is it more of a Western view applying this word broth, and then we're looking at it from a Western perspective that a broth should be this kind of thing. So I have gone for more of a thickened sauce than a very, very thin broth. Let's see what it tastes like. Do you know what? That's delicious. That's really nice. That's lovely. So mutton obviously is very similar to lamb, but like a bit stronger. It's sort of earthier, maybe a bit gamier flavour. And it works very well, again, with the mint, which is a classic, isn't it? Lamb and mint sauce. Classic. Cooking it slow for a long time, an hour, is going to be the key, because you need that longer time to break down the fibres, maybe. Basically, because it's a tougher cut of meat, it needs longer to break down. So don't just, bang this in and expect it's going to be done in half an hour. It's not. The parsnip, is decent. And the spicy mixture is very subtle in the background. I was sort of expecting it to be even slightly overpowering. I thought maybe the cumin would be quite overpowering, but it's not. It works really well with the coriander. And it's a very subtle, quite delicate flavour at the back. It kind of hits you after you've eaten all of the meat. It could probably have taken a little bit more. Maybe I was a bit conservative with how much, and maybe an extra half a teaspoon of coriander and cumin might lift this even more. Each bite's slightly different. I just got like quite a lot of mint in that, which was really nice. And then a bit before I had quite a bit of garlic, so each bite's really different. That's really nice. And if you want something that is not too hard to make, it's quite simple, then I definitely would recommend making that for some kind of cold and miserable day like we're having here in the UK. And don't worry too much if you can't get hold of mutton. It would work just as well with lamb. If you can't get hold of emmer flour, again, it would work just as well, normal wheat flour, any flour probably. And if you can't get hold of semolina, you could probably leave the semolina out. I'm not 100% sure what it's doing other than being another thickening agent. So, just add a bit more flour. You wouldn't need it necessarily. But yeah, I'm pleased with that. That's a good one. Nice. Thank you so much for watching, and join me next time for my next experiment on The Past is a Foreign Pantry. Will you just check if we've got tomatoes? We haven't. Okay. Tomatoes, beans, onions, and grapes. I'm ready to go now.